Johannesburg's West Rand. Let's now take you live to my colleague Tabiso Setole. Tabiso, good afternoon.
But where were you when you were arresting a lot of alcohol on this?
Good afternoon, police. Good afternoon to our viewers on SABC News Channel. Well, the minister, as you rightly said, is in the West Rand. He started off in Krugersdorp this morning. He's now in, I think it's Kagiso. On the left-hand side is Pro-Chair Glenn. Let's speak to the minister. Minister, apologies, sorry to disturb you. Welcome to SABC News Channel. You've been out the whole morning. It has been a tough morning for you. You've been telling us that you've made a couple of arrests. It's people are, I don't know, what do you say? People are just not understanding.
Well, it's the first day of level 4. But what we must all remember, as the president was talking about moving from level 5 to 4, that it won't be difficult if it becomes necessary to go back to 5. For the things we have seen today, they begin to urge us, they begin to tell to us we might have to go back to some of the things. But we'll take this to discussion, to command, and say what we saw people running this morning, it had nothing to do with the spacing, had nothing to do with the distance. We even seen the people cycling in a team, in a club, and that thing is prohibited, completely prohibited. We have seen people swimming is prohibited. So I think South Africans, they are not taking the matter serious, so they are forcing the government to be more tougher, to be more rigid than asking South Africans for all of us to work. As we are here in the city center where we started with the roadblock, I've never seen so much alcohol under the lockdown. Cases of alcohol, even drugs, cigarette, people drinking, not just even transporting it, drinking in the car. So that's how they've taken this first day. They don't tell us that most of what we have seen, they deserve this kind of this day. They deserve to have this leeway of going out there. Definitely we'll have to look back and we find out if we're not supposed to go back to 5 on some of these things.
Minister, it's always been a question of South Africans and bylaws and understanding that these laws are not because the state is trying to be totalitarian. It's about flattening that curve. It's about this COVID-19 that has gripped the nation. How tough is it? Because it seems that people, like you're saying, do not want to understand. How tough is it? Are you finding it? Because you have to enforce these laws and you have to arrest people for things like not carrying permits.
No, I don't think they don't understand. You know, all TV stations all of a sudden is for communication by the government. It's not even daily. Sometimes it's hourly. As you speak, I can show if you open any channel, there is a minister talking there about these things. So it's not true that people would not know. The community radio stations are on board on these things. All radio stations on languages are on board on this thing. People, they know. What I guess they don't believe is that there is a lot of death out of this. That as South Africans were still lucky, though by the way we were beginning to pick up. The day before yesterday was the first time ever we had 354 at a go. We have been dealing with 200 going down. Yesterday, day before, 354 and 10 deaths in one day. We're beginning to pick up. It's not impossible that one day we were like Italy, one day we were like Spain, one day we were like US, where 2,000 people die within 24 hours. I don't know why South Africans don't take their lucky to say we're lucky that it hasn't come, and let's all work together. That there are not people that talk about draconian laws and all that. Is a question of life if you don't behave. The only problem is not only you that will die with the rest of us. This thing is got a potential of wiping off the nation, wiping off the humankind. So those that are there, all of us that were alive, let's please say it's not just because the government wants to be tough with us, to be argue with the people, but people themselves must realize that if you break the law, if you don't do, we are becoming danger to yourself and to the nation, to your family and people at large.
Joint operations or joint arms of enforcement are here. We've got the South African National Defence Force, South African Police Services, Johannesburg Metro Police. We've seen more soldiers now from the SNDF on the streets as ordered by the president. Are they making a difference, or how much more time do you think people will start settling in, or they will start settling in to make that difference in enforcing what is expected of the people?
Well, you remember that some of us were also jealous about the thing called crime. Crime has really moved down, but all these joints, this health here, is Home Affairs, is everybody. What we have seen and what we have heard, I was listening to Professor Nicole from Gauteng and Professor Farr from West University, telling us how this non-availability of alcohol has helped to open the facilities at hospital for the COVID-19. For instance, if you go to Gauteng, one weekend you'll find that there are 150 people that are occupying your trauma centers, your theatre and all that. Those figures have moved down to 30. Which means the beds, the staff, the facilities are for COVID-19 instead of the bloody people that have stabbed one another, shot one another. So this alcohol thing, while we are happy from the crime approach, but it's also a big contributor to allow the system, to allow the health system to do what it's supposed to do. So it's a call that all we must heed. This alcohol, not just because people were refusing people to drink their alcohol, but it's a fact that alcohol reduces crime, alcohol reduces people getting hurt and hoarding the systems in hospital instead of giving those systems and those facilities to the people that are suffering from COVID-19.
Ndosi, thank you very much. That was the Minister of Police, Minister Bheki Cele, speaking to us at the multifaceted roadblock here manned by the South African National Defence Force, the South African Police Services and Johannesburg Metro Police on the west end of Johannesburg. West end is in lockdown, as you heard the the Minister saying that unfortunately, as he sees it, there's a possibility that moving from level 5 to level 4 could have been a mistake. He's saying that the way people are going about their business, they could move back to level 5 because people are just not listening. They're out in the streets, and we saw this morning from our reports in Cape Town in particular, the promenade in Cape Town, all the joggers, social distancing seems to be a thing of level 5 and upwards. But for now, thank you very much for me out in the West Rand, and Thabo Madulula, the cameraman. Back to you, Palisa, in studio.
All right, many thanks there to my colleague Tabiso Setole out in on the West Rand in Gauteng, speaking there to the Police Minister Bheki Cele, who's certainly not impressed with how things are continuing, saying that we may have to go back to level 5 if things continue at the pace they are now.